Okay, so ostomy supplies can be a little overwhelming when you're deciding what you want. There is so much available on the market, and there are so many different features to all the different bags. So in today's video, I'm going to go through as many features as possible. I'm going to show you as many ostomy bags as possible. So when you are looking for your perfect fit, hopefully you'll find it. Hey guys, it's Maggie and I am back today, and in today's video I am going to be going through a ton of ostomy supplies to really pick out the features that certain ostomates might be looking for. We all have very different stomas with different needs, and I'm hoping that by going through all of the different important features that are purposely designed into these different bags, you'll know what you're looking for when you go ostomy bag and ostomy flange shopping. I am just focusing on the actual appliances. I'm not focusing on the accessories in this video, but that's to come, so keep your eyes out for that. I also want to preface this video by saying that not all of the bags that you see in this video may be available. A lot of these samples that I received are a few years old. Unless I'm using it actively, they're kind of old because I'm not just ordering samples all the time for the heck of it. I try to keep them around and keep my knowledge updated on what's out there, but I'm showing this more to show the very specific features in them so you know the keywords to look out for when you're looking for your ostomy appliance. When I refer to an ostomy flange, there are a few different terms I'm going to use. They're interchangeable, so I may refer to the flange, the thing that actually sticks onto your skin right around your stoma, as a flange, a wafer, or a base plate. And every once in a while, you'll see a company call it a barrier, but I think that's too confusing when it comes to stuff like skin barrier spray. That's a totally different product. And then when it comes to bags, I'll refer to it either as bags or pouches. That's typically what you'll see. I think more in the US, we use the term bag, but in the UK, I've heard more pouch. Really just depends on your own preference. Yeah, so when it comes to getting ostomy supplies, I think the most important thing to do is figure out what your supply company offers. Hopefully your hospital has set you up with a supply company. That is a company that will offer a variety of brands. And oftentimes, like Edge Park here, they will provide you with a little product catalog. My current supply company doesn't, but that's besides the point. A product catalog is a really great way to see everything available. It might not be covered by your insurance, so keep that in mind. That's something you're going to want to ask about when you're placing your order for the first time. But you can just go through this and see everything out there that they offer, of course. You can see I tagged some of the pages for things that I found interesting. But I think you'll be surprised at truly how many brands are out there. If you're unfamiliar, if you're a brand new ostomate, there are the big three manufacturers. Manufacturers are the companies that actually make a specific ostomy bag or flange. The big three that you'll probably hear about, and your hospital will probably put one of these on you, is Hollister, Coloplast, or Convexity. They are really, I think, dominating the market, at least in the United States. But there are actually so many other brands of ostomy bags, and there are new ones popping up every day. I have seen so many recently of ostomy patients who just really aren't satisfied with what's available to them, so they go out and make it themselves. Anyways, ask for a product catalog so you can get a look at all the different supplies. When you're looking for supplies, you're going to want to keep in mind what kind of stoma you have. There are many different kinds of stomas, but I think the three that we think about the most are colostomies, ileostomies, and urostomies. Colostomies have a bit more of a formed stool. I mean, it depends on who you are and what's going on with you, but typically more of a formed stool you might not have to empty quite as frequently, so that's something to keep in mind. If you have an ileostomy, they tend to be a bit more active. You have to empty frequently throughout the day, so that's something you also want to keep in mind. And then if you have a urostomy where there really isn't a whole lot of consistency, your output's pretty much watery. You can keep that in mind when it comes to how you're going to empty that bag. So make sure you're familiar with what kind of stoma you have or stoma you're going to get, and that'll give you an idea of what kind of output you're going to be having. All right, I think it's time we get into all the different ostomy bags that I've got on hand here. But before we do, I have a really lovely friend that I don't think he's posted for a while online, but he has a fantastic blog about ostomies. And on one of his pages, he actually lists out all of the manufacturers as well as the link to get free samples and whether or not that company gives free samples. So I'm going to put that in the description below. I have sent that link to so many people at this point. So that way, if you're watching this video and you're hearing of different brands that you might not be familiar with, check out his link and see if they'll send you free samples, because a lot of these companies do. All right, let's get into these ostomy supplies. I'm sure that you'll recognize some names, you might not recognize others, so just keep in mind that all of the stuff I'm showing you, it might not be available anymore. I'm really focusing in on the different features. So one of the first things that I think about when choosing an ostomy bag is, do I want a one-piece system or a two-piece system? A one-piece system means that the bag and the flange are all in one. There is no assembly required. So as you can see, this is actually a bag from Marlin. This is one of the smaller brands I mentioned. The flange here is directly attached to the bag. There are a few benefits to the one-piece system. They tend to be a lot more low profile. Sometimes people have difficulty snapping their bag onto their flange with a two-piece system. That's not the case with these because you don't have to do any snapping together. And for myself, something that helped me a lot was when I had lost a lot of weight when I had my ostomy surgery. My stoma actually sat in sort of a divot, kind of a cave in my stomach. So this was able to bend a lot easier. With a number of different two-piece systems, they rely on a hard plastic ring to connect together, which I'll show you here. This one is from Hollister. This is the flange or the base plate or the wafer. This is what sticks to your skin. It's got backing here that you peel off. And then you have the bag that's separate. And the benefit of this is you can switch out the bag to a different size or a different type. Really depends on what mood you're in and what activity you're doing. Some people will actually at nighttime, if they have a higher output stoma or they put more output out, that's a lot of outs. If they're having a lot of output overnight and they don't want to wake up as frequently, they'll use a nighttime drainage bag, which are really long bags. So that's really easy because they can take that overnight bag, click it on, and remove their little daytime mini pouch. Especially after surgery though, it can be painful trying to press on a bag onto your stomach when the flange is already attached. So some people will actually clip the bag together beforehand before they ever place it on themselves and then put it on. Totally up to you. So something to keep in mind. I have this other one from Marlin that I wanted to show you because it kind of helps with that issue of the two-piece. So here's another two-piece system. Here is the bag and here is the flange. It's actually a bit more flexible. It does have a plastic ring here, but it is a bit more flexible than the really hard plastic ring of Hollister. And you might notice this doesn't look quite like a plastic ring, and that's because it's not. On this system, they actually attach through adhesive. So you'll peel this backing off and stick it onto the bag, which can alleviate that issue of trying to push the bag on and get it to click when it's already on you. The thing that I have had trouble with when it comes to adhesive two-piece bags is that I have struggled to get the adhesive to lay completely flat. If there is any sort of wrinkle, it will leak out the sides. So just keep that in mind. I haven't tried Marlin, so I couldn't tell you, but I have tried other brands, and that's been a little bit difficult for me. There's another feature of a two-piece flange that I want you to be aware of when it comes to choosing the right flange for you, and that is a floating flange or a floating ring. Basically what that means is that this little ring. I don't know if you could tell on Hollister. Let's hope my camera can focus. So that is a floating ring or a floating flange, and that can also improve your ability to clip a bag on once it's already on, because you can hook your fingers underneath of that little ring there and click the bag on a little bit easier. The thing about it is it sticks out a little bit more. So if you want something low profile and you're not so worried about clicking the bag on, you might want to go for a flat flange like Convexity. That's the one that I use. They do offer floating flanges, but for me, I wanted something low profile. So if you can see, this one does not have the ability to hook your fingers underneath of to click the bag on. All things you're going to want to keep in mind. Another thing you might want to look at is, how does the flange shape to your stoma size? Some you cut to fit, some are you pre-order them and they cut them for you or they size them for you, and others are moldable. So here I have a Coloplast Centura Mio flange, and this guy is a cut to fit. Many ostomy flanges will give you a little sizing guide that makes it a little easier to determine where you're supposed to cut, but you do have to cut these. If you've got, a different shape, like maybe your stoma isn't perfectly round, you are going to have to accommodate that when you cut your stoma flange. Then there are moldable flanges, like I mentioned. This is the Convexity moldable flange, and all you do is you peel back the edges of it, and it fits over your stoma and kind of turtlenecks up to perfectly kind of fit that stoma size. And I think the last thing that I do want to mention about flanges is they will often come with some sort of border around them, but not always. They usually refer to this as a tape collar or a fabric collar, and that really just means that, beyond where the hydrocolloid sits or where the main part of the flange sits, there is an extra border around it to help kind of hold it down. This one has sort of a fabric border. This is the Convexity one still. But then there are others, like I said, that don't come with that. This is the Coloplast one. It doesn't. So just look out for that term, tape border, tape collar, something like that. I forgot this feature and I want to make sure that I share it with you guys. There's so many features and I'm just going through the supplies, like picking out what I see. But the last feature is convexity. This is for people who may have a stoma that doesn't quite stick out. If you've ever seen my stoma, you can go on my channel and see it. Mine sticks out about an inch, and that's actually really helpful for draining into the bag. Some people's stomas wind up sucking into their belly a little bit, and it makes the bag leak a bit more. They usually have a lot more trouble with trying to keep a flange on. So this here from Marlin is an example of a convex wafer or a convex flange. It sticks up a bit more right next to the stoma, so it's placing a bit more pressure right around the stoma to sort of pop it outwards. And these, of course, come in just the flange, or if you use a one-piece system, there are some bags that have a convex flange. Now, on the opposite side of that, this is a bag that I unfortunately do not have on hand. It is one from Coloplast that is sort of a star-shaped. Some people deal with hernias behind their stomas, and it makes it so it sort of bulges outwards. And a typical flat flange like this doesn't really work so well with that. It doesn't quite stick. So there is one from Coloplast that has sort of a star shape to it. It's got different legs to it, so it wraps a little bit easier. I've also heard of WOCNs actually cutting relief lines into the edge of their flange to help with that. So something to keep in mind. If you have a stoma that you really don't have to empty all that frequently, you're looking at your ileostomy friends and you're like, oh my gosh, glad I don't have to do that. You might want a bag that doesn't drain. And there are a few different examples. This one is a Convexity two-piece. This clicks onto the flange that I showed you before. And as you can tell, there is no way to empty this. So typically you would just take this off and throw it out. Or do what I do and empty out the ring. But that's besides the point. Then there are other ones like this one from Marlin that is a one-piece non-drainable one. So you would have to complete your skincare, complete the cleaning around the stoma each time you needed to empty. Depending on how frequently your stoma is having output though, this might work for you. For other people though that need to empty their ostomy bags, there are a few different closures that you'll find. I think this is probably the one that you won't see nearly as frequently anymore. That is a clip-ended bag, and I do not like these. If you've ever heard about the first time I slept over at Zach's apartment, you know why I don't like clip bags, but typically you would have a clip that folds the end of the bag up, and that's how it closes. This is just a flimsy bottom though, and it's very difficult to clean. Much more popular though are the Velcro closure bags. This one is, I think, the most popular, especially among those who need to frequently empty. You've got a little Velcro folding closure. This is a, what is this? I think this is actually a New Hope bag. They have kind of a foamy feeling flange there. But anyways, this is a Velcro closure, and typically I think the best made ones will have a little bit more of a harder plastic on the end of them, which makes it easier to pop them open. And it also makes it a little bit easier to clean. And once you're done cleaning it, it's a little hard. I feel like I need to stick it to my shirt here. You just fold up the bottom and Velcro it closed. I think some companies do this great, some don't do it so great. That's one thing about Coloplast that I really liked. I think that they had one of the best emptying Velcro closure systems because they've got the hard plastic. It was a bit easier for me to clean, and if you've been watching me for a while, you know I don't like draining and cleaning the ends of these bags. But the other feature I loved about this is once you've folded this all up, I'm going to show you up close. There is a little piece of Velcro underneath the fabric that goes on top of the bag, and you can tuck in the end there. So it's very, discreet. It really flattens it out. I liked that a lot. My skin just didn't like their flange. Oh well. That's another thing we need to talk about is the clear bags versus the opaque ones. A lot of the time in the hospital, you will find that patients are put with a clear bag, and there is a specific reason for that. People like to be able to visualize the stoma, especially when they're brand new. It makes it easier to see if the stoma is healthy and it has that beefy red color, or if it's changing color, or if it's prolapsing, or if it's retracting inwards. There's many reasons that they like to be able to see through the bag, but a number of patients usually prefer that once they go home, they don't want to look at the contents in their bag. It's totally understandable. So they'll switch over to an opaque bag, and many of these have fabrics on the outside of them that are really comfortable. They help wick moisture away from the skin, and it also makes it a little more difficult to see in the bag. There is another feature. Woo, there's so many features. Some bags like this one, the Coloplast one, they actually have clear plastic but have the fabric over. So it's an opaque bag, but you still have a window to see in there if you want. This is really great for the hospital too. Here's that Marlin bag again. It's got the fabric over it, but it's got the viewing window, so it's actually clear plastic. There are other ones though where you can tell by the end of this bag, it's not clear plastic. This is also an opaque plastic, so you've got two layers of opaqueness to protect you from seeing what's in there. Another bag feature you might be interested in, although I don't think that they are very effective in all the different ones that I've tried, is a filter. Not all ostomy bags come with filters. This is basically to allow any gas out. Usually they have some sort of charcoal in them to help mitigate the odor that might come from that, but not all bags have it. Like this Hollister bag, you can see there's nothing on the top, and that's usually where they'll be. This one, however, you can see at the very top that there is a filter. So think about that. Think about if that's a feature you want. I will say this. I have seen a number of different brands' filters leak, especially if you have more liquidy output. That has been a struggle of mine. Usually those brands will include a sticker within the box. You'll find this weird set of stickers and be like, what the heck is this for? That's to cover the filter, just so it doesn't leak. I think that defeats the purpose of a filter, personally, if you have to cover it up and then it doesn't work. That's one thing that I think Hollister really does the best is filters. I've never had a Hollister filter leak on me, and for the first day they work. After a day's wear, they don't work anymore. But that's better than a lot of the brands, so. All right, I'm trying to think if I'm missing any other features. I've got one more for you, and this is more for my urostomy friends or those with really high output, watery ileostomies. I have used this type of bag on both of those types of patients. This is a nozzle-ended draining closure. As you can tell, you are not going to be able to get thick output out of this. It is going to clog. Unfortunately, some patients are put on this, and the person putting it on them does not realize that it will not work for them. Like, you will not be able to drain it. So it's really only for extremely watery output like urine. There are some brands that create this nozzle-ended bag that also has a little tube that leads to a second drainage bag. So for urostomy patients that are having a lot of urine output overnight, that's a really great feature. I never used this on a urostomy patient. I used it on an ileostomy patient that had extremely watery output, very, very, very short small bowel. But what we would do was place the bag on and kind of tilt it to the side and then attach the tube to the nozzle end. That tube would go to the floor where there was a second bag, and we would allow it to drain overnight. So that way you weren't waking the patient up all night long to empty their bag. That's also a great option for you guys if you're worried about getting up in the middle of the night and having to empty your bag all the time. As I'm sitting here looking at all of these bags on my dining room table, I'm like, okay, what features are you missing? I think the only one that I missed was the belt loops that you'll find on a number of different flanges and ostomy bags. Most companies will do this, and they'll have their own belt that goes with it. And this just helps to keep the ostomy bag in place, sticking on to you well. I don't prefer using belts, as many of you know, but some people really love them. And so these little belt loops on the side are how those belts attach, and then you put it around your waist and it holds the ostomy flange in place. Okay, I'm not sure that I am missing too much else. If I am, please let me know in the comments below. But yes, definitely check out the link in the description. I'll put it in a pinned comment as well. For the blog post. It's from Vegan Ostomy, and he just has a wonderful manufacturer list as well as a sample link list. It's fantastic. If you want to try different brands, I highly recommend it. Even if you don't have a stoma yet and you've got surgery scheduled, start ordering samples of things you might want to try, because it's better to have them than not have them, especially if you experience a lot of leaks right after surgery. I just find it better to have more supplies than less. And just remember, even if a hospital puts you in one brand and you do not love it, you can switch. You can switch. There's so many brands out there beyond the Hollister, Coloplast, Convatec. There's Marlin, there's Salts, there's what else is there? There's Pelican, I think that's a UK one. There is Symed, there's New Hope. There's so many different brands out there that are really cool, and they have really interesting features to them. So check them out. And all right, guys, thank you so much for watching this. I hope this was helpful in figuring out what you might like in your ostomy supplies. And I'll be back soon with an ostomy accessory video. All right, see you soon.